Hello there, good evening. The bad news, the lockdown continues. The good news, though, is that we will be as well, at least for the next few weeks. Tonight, Hollywood film producers, financial positions, and the most underrated Premier League players of yesteryear. That will all hopefully become a little bit more clear over the next hour or so than our government's message was last night. I'm Andy Sixsmith, this is Football Matters, and here's a little bit more detail on tonight's programme. We've been waiting for a Sunderland story to headline the programme for weeks now. This perhaps wasn't what we had in mind. A £20 million hole in the club's accounts. How big a problem do the Black Cats have? We'll clear everything up with football finance expert Kieran Maguire and Sunderland writer James Hunter. What does a Hollywood producer and Willington Football Club have in common? Well, certainly a love for lower league football. All will be revealed in the next hour. And plenty of activity at Shildon, glowing praise for the Gateshead gaffer, and more on the managerial appointment at Blyth Spartans. Lockdown hasn't prevented the North East football news continuing. We have it all on tonight's show. And it's excellent to have all of you with us on episode 8, now would you believe, of the revamped Football Matters. Something I certainly couldn't do without the help of these three. Introducing our peerless pundits for the evening. He's been kept busy with the raft of North East football news, and he's also way ahead of the new government guidelines, having played sports, namely beer pong, with his wife for weeks now. North East football writer Mark Carruthers. It's been all Newcastle over the past few weeks. Now finally, he has a Sunderland story to get his teeth into, just not necessarily the one that he perhaps would have wanted. Sorry, fella. Black Cats legend Darren Williams is ready to roll, ready to rock, and ready to get his teeth into that story. And last but not least, he said last week he spent the lockdown finishing Netflix. What on earth has he got up his sleeve tonight? Co-owning a pub, perhaps? We'll see. Presumably with cans frozen by now, party poppers ready to go ahead of this prospective Newcastle takeover. Toon favourite, Olivier Bernard. Gents, I was going to ask, what have you been doing for the past 7 days? But I guess, Ollie, that answer is pretty straightforward for you, isn't it?
I was a bit bored, you're right. I was a bit bored and I thought, what can I do, you know? So, so I got myself a pub. Now, it's been going on for quite a while, over the last couple of months. Uh-huh. So it's just been agreed and yes, I'm taking over a pub in Blyth.
Sorry, but of all of the people I know, Ollie, you are the only person I would reply with if someone asked me, who would be the person most likely to take over a pub? And I would turn around and immediately, especially during lockdown, and announce it. I would immediately reply with Olivier Bernard.
I put my hand in any pie.
Well, it's a bold statement, mate.
I think we'll probably leave that there. First invitee is going to be Darren, Mark, and myself, are there? Not to the pie, to the pub.
Free beer, isn't it?
Apparently so. When the lockdown restrictions are eased. Darren, what have you been up to over the last week, mate, apart from these revelations about Ollie's new pub in Blyth?
Dreaming about going.
It's going well, then.
Well, pretty much hanging about the house, mate. I just don't know whether I'm coming or going. Been to Tesco's a couple of times.
I think that's the best it gets for any of us, isn't it?
Yeah, just to stock up because I've been running out.
Well, hopefully you can time it just right for when Ollie's pub opens in Blyth, then we can all take a trip there. Mark, beer pong top of the league now, I hear.
2 wins in a row, so flying at the minute. But yeah, apart from that, busy with work, to be fair. Yeah. I'll not mention anything I've done because I think most of it's on the agenda later on tonight. So we'll discuss it then. Yeah, but it's been a busy week, surprisingly. Good.
I'm glad the wife's not clearly within hearing distance right now. Otherwise, a saucepan would have been thrown across the room if I know your wife. With that smug look on your face about the beer pong.
She's always within hearing distance.
Well Well said, mate. Well said. You're lucky this is definitely being recorded. Guys, great to have you back along as ever for this week's programme. A quick reminder for you all watching tonight, we're on all sorts of social media, as we always are. Subscribe to us if you haven't already on YouTube. We're at youtube.com/Football Matters. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Footy Matters TV, and give us a like on Facebook too while you're at it. You can watch this on YouTube or Facebook, or you can listen to the podcast, which should be out on Tuesday on SoundCloud and perhaps even iTunes if we get lucky. But let's get straight into things tonight, because I promised producer Johnny that we would be within the hour. Whether
Early hours.
An hour of Monday, let's just clarify. Not many of a day this week. And we kick things off tonight, as promised, on Weir's side. Worrying news breaking last week, wasn't it? That Sunderland's latest account showed a £20.5 million hole in them. This relates to Stuart Donald using Sunderland's parachute payments to finance the majority of his takeover of the club. That amount is now discovered to have been written off. There's no legal obligation to pay it back either. Sunderland and Madrox, the vehicle used for the purchase of the club, have commented and stated that money is being and will be repaid in full, either by way of a gift or shareholder funds. Darren, sorry, mate. You have a Sunderland story, like I said before. It's not the one you wanted. What on earth do you make of this mess?
I mean, obviously they've come out and and kind of try to explain it in a way, shape, or form of how they've gone about it and what's happening. They've said that they're ahead of schedule in their repayments or how they're going to repay it, etc.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is this story broke, and everything was quiet for days and days and days.
Yeah.
Which then escalates like rumours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are saying, is this why they're selling the young players? To try and put the money back into the club, obviously that that should be in the club, etc. To try to fill this hole.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're looking at situations about, no response from the chairman. So it just builds and builds, rumours, etc. People are saying, what's happening? Are these fleecing the club?
Yeah.
And you know what it's like. It blows up, and I understand. They've come out and said obviously this was accounts from 2018, 2019, and obviously, this is where it's been, being placed, in the right way, in the right manner. We've done our accounts exactly how they're supposed to be done. So then, if all this has been done in the right way, in the right manner, why not react to this as soon as the question comes out? They've waited, and then everybody now is thinking the worst. Everything may be okay, everything may be normal, but when something like this comes out, you've got to respond straight away. You can't just sit there and just wait.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing to hear stuff like this. Because now you've got fans thinking, well, we knew they had limited funds. Can this chairman or can this consortium, etc., can this move us forward?
Yeah.
And now a lot of people are going to be questioning that. So I think they've kind of dug themselves a hole in a sense.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like I say, all this is put to bed, and they are actually ahead of where they should be paying. They said it's a 5-year plan, and they're ahead of where they should be. Then hopefully, that is the case.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And like you say, it's been very, very difficult to kind of get any straight answers out of them entirely, which hopefully we'll be able to break down the complicated situation this evening. Ollie and Mark, I'll come to you in a bit. But of course, we have two guests waiting on the line for us right now to get involved and hopefully cast a little bit more clarity over this. Returning for his second appearance in a matter of weeks, I just wish that they could be in better circumstances, although he seemingly is in a better environment this week. Football finance expert and author of The Price of Football, Kieran Maguire. And like Darren, presumably desperate for a good news story on Sunderland sometime soon. Sunderland writer for The Chronicle, James Hunter. Gents, first and foremost, how are we both doing during lockdown and after the latest government's measures, shall we say, last night?
I'm going to rip up some T-shirts and turn them into masks. That's my task for the day.
We'll let you get back onto that after Football Matters finishes, Kieran, tonight. James, how are you getting on?
Yeah, getting on all right. Yeah, it seems to be just going on and on and on, doesn't it? But like everybody, you just make the best of it.
And at least you've got Sunderland to keep you busy, which is exactly where we're going right now. Kieran, let's come to you first. My explanation of the current financial situation at Sunderland was probably about as clear as the current set of government guidelines right now. Just clarify how bad and how messy a situation this is for Sunderland.
Well, I've been teaching business and finance since the 1980s. but reading the statements in today's Echo, I think I need to go back to school because I was left scratching my head. I think the nature of the comments made, they were just trying to blind people with science and jargon. The long and the short of it is that Sunderland have been losing a lot of money for a long period of time. I think that's accepted. Mr. Donald and Mr. Methven came in, they bought the club, they said they had some form of 5-year plan. But I know one or two people that are interested in buying and selling. I know a few brokers of football clubs, and they're not really the type of thing I'd like to go into in detail, but that club was up for sale within 12 months of it being acquired. They were trying to flip it, they were trying to sell it at a profit, and that's fine. But I think the issues which were revealed in the national newspapers, sort of by, I think it was the Mail and the Times, indicated that that £20 million, which was originally due to be paid by Madrox to Sunderland as part of the deal to pay off Ellis Short, that money's been written off. Now, there could be legitimate reasons behind that. Nothing in that's illegal. But my gut reaction is what they're trying to do is to reduce the assets of the club, and they're hoping that anybody that's coming in to buy it is not going to notice. That because that's how some people will just do it. They just do it on a whim. Mike Ashley famously acquired Newcastle without doing any due diligence. I think it could be that the people in Madrox were hoping that they'd find somebody taking a similar cavalier approach to acquiring the club. And again, talking to people who are involved in things of this nature, they've been disappointed with such an approach, because every time they try to sit down and have a serious conversation, either the price has changed, or the assets you're acquiring have changed, or things of this nature.
You say it's not illegal, but how ethically, morally, whatever word you want to suggest, how ethically or morally shady is it to kind of remove that obligation to pay back?
Well, if you're trying to, if your intention was to buy Sunderland Football Club and sell it at a maximum profit, then that's the type of thing that you might consider. I think it's a bit insulting to the people who are prospectively buying the club, because if they're professional, they will have done their work. They will have gone into what's referred to as a data room, where they access all the numbers. And certainly that's the one thing which stands out significantly. If it had got through, then potentially you could have made an extra £20 million on the deal. So, morality and ethics in business aren't words that we normally use. Business is business. I just don't think it reflects particularly well on the people involved. And I think if I was a fan of Sunderland Football Club, I'd be very disappointed in them. I think that's the politest thing I can say. I think Sunderland fans deserve better. They deserve better communication. You always say that you judge a man by the company he keeps. And if we take a look at Sunderland, they're one of the few institutions to have used this three-month delay clause to not publish the accounts. Again, poor communication. It's an insult to the people who love and care for the club, because the club belongs to the fans. If I just list you out the other clubs and institutions in football who have not, have also taken advantage of that rule, we've got Newcastle United, and again, that's Mike Ashley, and I know that we know what everybody thinks of him. Derby County, who are up before the EFL on a charge. Sheffield Wednesday, who are up before the EFL on a charge, and the PFA, whose leader is on £2.5 million a year and is effectively refusing to answer to his members. So if that's what the Sunderland owners want to keep company with, well, that's their choice, but that reflects on them.
Certainly, like you say, a worrying time for the Sunderland fans, and not fair on the Sunderland fans, which is a perfect time to bring James in. What is the general consensus, James, that you're finding from the Sunderland fans in yet another problematic issue for them and for the club?
Yeah, Sunderland fans' opinion of the owners has changed hugely since the summer of 2018 when they came in. For the first 12 months, certainly the majority of that first season, it was like an extended honeymoon. Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven were very open, too open for their own good at times. They would come in and say that they wanted to be transparent in every area. But of course, following the end of last season, missing out on promotion in the way that they did, they then slammed down the shutters effectively. Not totally slammed down the shutters, but they've taken a massive step back, and they're no longer proactive in the way that they go about things. It's a bad look for the club. It looks like they're on the back foot all the time. These the reports came out on Friday in the Mail and the Times about the financial situation at the club, and then of course today they're responding to that. It always looks like they're playing catch up now, instead of coming out at the outset and saying this is what we're doing and this is what it's going to look like and we're going to make this accounting maneuver. It now looks like it gives the impression that there's something to hide, even if there isn't anything to hide. It gives the impression that they're trying to sneak something past people, and they've been found out for it. It's just a very, very bad look, and I think as Kieran has been saying, there's nothing illegal. There's no rules been broken. It just looks bad, and particularly when you came to a club telling fans that you wanted to be transparent, you wanted to be honest and level with them. It doesn't give that impression now at all. And I just think that I mean, of course, they've freed themselves of this legal obligation now to pay this money back. It doesn't mean they won't pay it back. Yeah. They've said they will pay it back. It just means that now people are having to take on trust, and unfortunately, on Weir is no longer one of trust towards them.
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually. Darren was just saying before when we were talking about it, the fact that there is obviously this lack of communication. Again, it's reflected badly once again. The big one for me, though, excuse me, Stuart Donald's mentioned, Charlie Methven's mentioned, Juan Sartori. Big claims right at the start when he came in at Sunderland. Ever since, I think he was made a senator over in Uruguay, he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Just, James, if you kind of know or have any insight into what his role is at the club anymore, what is he doing with regards to Sunderland anymore?
Well, he hasn't disappeared off the face of the earth. He's quite simply, he's in Uruguay. He's a Uruguayan senator in their equivalent of parliament over there. He was only elected to that role in February. It's a 5-year term. He's not going to be spending a large amount of time over here in England. I mean, this is again why this question and answer that the club has taken part in today, saying, "Oh well, Juan Sartori will be moving to London." When is he going to move to London? He's got a 5-year term in the Uruguayan Parliament to see out. You can imagine if you'd elected an MP in this country and they announced they were going to go and live in Montevideo, you wouldn't take very kindly to it. It's not going to happen. Yeah. They were very keen that Juan Sartori was going to take a bigger role within the club back in December when Charlie Methven stepped down from the board, but it hasn't happened. Yeah. To my knowledge, Juan Sartori hasn't been at a Sunderland game since the opening day of the season. So, he's very much a back figure. Whatever involvement he has, he doesn't have day-to-day involvement. Whatever financial involvement he has is obviously being done from a distance.
So just moving back to the kind of the repayments, because I know both yourselves, James and Kieran, you've both said that, or summarised what has been said today, and that is that Madrox will be paying this back over the course of 5 years. I think they even said that they were ahead of schedule in terms of paying this back. Is this possible, Kieran, over the remaining 3 years, or is this largely gambling on Sunderland's league position in terms of how fast that they can make those repayments or not?
Well, if you get promoted to the Championship, that's when your money problems really start, because the total losses in the Championship last season were £660 million.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how Donald and Methven can take the extra money that you do get from going from League One to the Championship, and that works out as around about £6 or £7 million of TV money. And let's face it, you're going back to a Championship where no matches are going to be played in 2020-21. Yeah, I think we've all got to accept that from the noises coming out post-COVID. So you're going into a division which has got significant losses. So under those circumstances, unless they are pumping money from their personal funds into Madrox, I don't see how Madrox can repay the loans, because it's certainly not going to come from any returns on the profits of the club, because Sunderland loses money. It lost money when it was in the Premier League. It lost money when it was receiving parachute payments in the Championship. So how can it make a profit when it's not receiving parachute payments and it's in the most cutthroat division in Europe?
So you firmly believe that even by the end of the 5 years, whether you highly doubt whether Madrox will be able to pay back that remaining money?
Well, only if Madrox's shareholders pump money into Madrox itself. And I think this is where part of the confusion lies, because the references to Mr. Sartori was that he's put millions into the club, and then it said it's interest free and it's debt free, but they didn't answer directly. Of course, the question was, how many shares is he therefore bought? So if it's not shares and it's not loans, what is it? Magic beans? It just makes no sense.
Kieran, maybe I've got a question, because I'm a bit confused with the situation, and that's probably, James, you might be able to answer that as well. But what was the intention when they first bought the club to what is now compared to now? When they bought the club, what was the motivation? What their aspiration? What was the aspiration?
I think James is probably closer to this one than I am, because he's in dealings with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you take them at their word, they were here for the long haul. It wasn't supposed to be a short-term project. But as Kieran's already alluded to, we know that by March, by the time Sunderland were in the EFL trophy final, Checkatrade trophy final, already there was of selling them. Already there was, at that stage, Mark Bull being talked about as a prospective new owner. So already, what was that? Less than a year, 9 months after they'd taken over, already there was talk of a sale. And I certainly think now that, Stuart Donald has already said that he wants to sell the club. Obviously, the mood has changed towards him, and he feels that he's outstayed his welcome. And I would say that a large proportion of Sunderland fans would certainly agree with that. One thing that I'd be interested in asking Kieran, because you understand more about this than I do as someone from an accountancy background. Within this question and answer today, Madrox saying that they have invested £11.3 million in this current financial year into the club, and they're saying that puts a dent in the parachute payments. But does it? That's just is that an investment or is that a repayment of the parachute payments? You can't class it as an investment if it's a repayment of money that they've taken out, if you like. Surely they can't have it both ways.
I think they're trying to have it both ways, unfortunately. And the best way for them to deal with this is to let somebody just come in and have a forensic review. And if they've got nothing to hide, then everybody will be happy with them, and perhaps relationships can improve. But I think the statements that came out today simply made no sense. As you correctly said, James, you can't have it both ways. You can't both invest and repay loans with the same money. I'd love to be able to do it on my mortgage.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, though, because we talk about Madrox as the vehicle that was used to buy Sunderland. Talking about Sunderland as a club, though, given the American investment only a few months ago, from your experience, Kieran, how precarious a financial position are they in right now? Are they firmly reliant on those American investment, or is it very much a case of there's not too much more to worry about here?
I think when you're getting external investors coming in, and there doesn't appear to be any logic behind that decision, you have to ask yourself what is their return? What is their end game? Now, it could be that they were actually also investing in Madrox, and therefore they were going to get a percentage of the profits on the deal. And if so, that's fine. That is business. But the more I look at it, the more confused I get. And it's just unfortunately, it's very frustrating. Coming up with a definitive answer, unfortunately, I can't give, because the information that we do get is always contradictory.
Darren, what you were about to add?
Because as well, contrasts entirely with the previous ownership model under Ellis Short, which went wrong on the football level for many reasons. But you knew exactly where you were. One man owned the club entirely. There was no messing around. There was no third parties involved. No investors. And here we've got holding companies, investors, a loan come investment from the FPP group, which every time any questions are asked about that, we're told, the terms are confidential. It's a very easy thing to hide behind. It's not clear. It's very, very opaque, isn't it, an arrangement?
Darren, I'm sure as a fan and a former player, you want to kind of have your say while we have Kieran and James. Have you any questions or?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, obviously, I've listening to Kieran and James, obviously, the way it's been explained, obviously, a lot more clearer to me. Obviously, I don't have a background as obviously like these guys do, and they're in the know obviously a lot more than I am at the moment. But it just annoys me. I think, well, these guys come in singing all the right tunes, and and they were going along the line of obviously getting everyone excited about how they wanted to take Sunderland forward. And like these guys have explained, 12 months down the line, they're looking to sell the club on and flip it. Which is really annoying because, as an ex-player, I was kind of taken in by them and thinking, what, these guys have come in and they know what the club's about, and they know what the support they're about. And then to have something like this, that comes up is very, very disappointing. And I can see the way the fans are going now. And from obviously, like Kieran said, the only way this can be resolved and you can kind of get a little bit more behind them in any way, shape or form is that they let somebody go through the system, with a fine tooth comb and check it all out. Because if these guys are saying they're doing nothing wrong and they're playing by the law and playing by the rules, and there's nothing to hide, then why not let somebody have a look through that, and sit and see what is the deep-rooted problem? Because there is a problem, otherwise this money wouldn't be getting used.
So just to round things off, James and Kieran, because I appreciate you guys are, in demand, pressed for time, etc. Just moving forward off the back of what Darren's saying, is it going to pretty much need a takeover of Sunderland for it just to reset itself as a football club now, with all of these issues, all of these problems? I know a takeover is highly unlikely at the minute, given the current situation with COVID, obviously with this news that's broken over the last few days, but is it pretty much only a takeover that can allow Sunderland now to just leave all of this behind and move forward as a football club? James, let's go to you first.
I think so. Yeah, I think that what you've seen is a fundamental breakdown in trust between the fans and the owners. It's happened very, very quickly, really just in the space of 12 months, to be honest with you. But it has now reached a stage where I think that until there are new owners within the club, I don't think that the fan base are going to trust the owners. There's certainly a significant proportion of the fan base will not trust the owners, and at that stage it becomes untenable. And I think that Sunderland fans are pushing it an open door. I think Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven want to get out. It's just that at the moment it's difficult to sell a football club, certainly one that's in League One, and certainly during the the COVID-19 situation that we've got now.
And Kieran, from
do we know how much is the club up for sale at the minute?
They've refused to put an asking price on it, Ollie. They've said that again today, but previously Stuart Donald has said that he wouldn't want to take a loss. So whatever he's paid, he wants back. And the asking price was £39.6 million. But how much of that was actually being paid? So therefore, how much he'd want back, I don't know.
Yeah. Just Kieran, let's round things off with you. Just again from a financial perspective, to go back to that question that I asked James, is that what it's going to take to kind of hit the reset button for Sunderland as a business now?
Well, I mean, the whole purpose about Donald and Methven coming in was that they effectively inherited a business where the reset button had been set, because Ellis Short, for I appreciate it was a poor relationship in the end. Yeah. He put the money in, but it was spent poorly. We've now got a combination of no money or no fresh money appears to be put in, and that's been spent poorly as well. In terms of the asking price, I've heard figures of around about £35 million being asked, but how much has been paid by Madrox? If you knock £20 million off the 39.6, they're looking to make a decent profit on this.
Yeah. It's a hugely difficult situation, and one that doesn't look like it's going to be resolved anytime soon, given the situation as we stand right now. But James, Kieran, thank you very, very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it tonight, and most importantly, obviously, stay safe given the current COVID crisis. And we'll hopefully catch up with you soon with maybe some brighter news regarding Sunderland.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Kieran.
Thank you.
That's
Cheers,
of course, Kieran Maguire, football finance expert, and James Hunter, Sunderland writer at The Chronicle as well. We're just going to quickly move on here because we are starting to run out of time already, which is quite remarkable. Goes quickly.
Unusual.
Ollie's sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, my friend. And it is better news, this.
Ollie's telling his pub ready to buy Sunderland.
You're laughing. Wait.
I love the fact that Football Matters breaks news like this every single week. It's fantastic, which is also what I can say for our next story of the evening. It is a tremendous story, this one. It's bad news with the Black Cats, but a tremendous story that broke down the leagues this week. Mark, you were firmly all over this story. Willington FC of the Northern League second division, like many other lower league clubs, have felt the effects of COVID-19, the lockdown, the struggling financially to sustain the club. Hence an online fundraiser, a target of £2,000, and it was achieved 6 days ago after a Hollywood producer by the name of Robert Malloy donated £1,500 to the cause. Rob is a huge fan of non-league football. He's recently become vice president of Matlock Town as well in the Northern Premier League, and he's also the grandson of former New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner. Are we keeping up?
Yeah, I know it. No, I know him, mate.
Has he already backed yourself out?
I've tried to get him into Sunderland.
Well, here's your chance, Darren. Here's your chance, because we have the very Robert Malloy on the programme tonight. So feel free to pitch Sunderland to him as a business entity anytime that you want. I'm delighted to say that this may or may not be completely correct. Robert Malloy is our first guest from the United States on Football Matters. I'm delighted to have him along. Congratulations on becoming Football Matters' longest distance interviewee. And we also have Willington press officer Mark Welsh. Gents, Rob, we have to come to you first. How are you doing? How is the state today?
Good. Obviously the coronavirus is crazy over here, but, getting through it and looking forward to when it's over, to be honest.
Aren't we all?
Are.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
As I gather, this is the first time Mark and Robert, you guys have come, I use this expression very loosely, but face to face, ever since, Rob, you made that wonderful donation to Willington.
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, pleased to meet both of you. I think Darren, first of all, has a question for you, Rob.
Yeah, Rob. There's this club in North East called Sunderland. Just wondering if you wanted to, maybe he's investing there, or maybe he's like, don't be looking at the books, just invest, mate.
I watched Sunderland Till I Die on Netflix, and I've seen all about it. The fans really love their club, and shit, you never know.
No, please, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't go and chuck your money away for nothing.
Yeah, don't do that, Rob.
Keep it.
Okay, that's 3 no's, so all right.
We won't hold you to it, Rob. We'll focus instead on Willington and your non-league expertise as well. I have to ask you first, Rob, where did this huge interest in English football, and in particular non-league football, come from with you?
Well, first, excuse the little lip here. I got something called Guillain-Barré right now, so it's kind of messing up all my nerves. So I can't really smile, so even if I want to laugh, Okay.
No one ever smiles on this program anyway, mate, so you'll fit right in.
Well, my uncle, who actually just passed away last week, he really got me into football in general. He loved it, wanted to buy Liverpool before John Henry did.
Yeah.
But, I've ever since, I think around 2004, I've grown just a massive interest in the game.
Yeah.
And he's helped me along the lines learning it. His favorite team was Ajax. And so he told me how they, kind of changed the game, how it is. And, in 2006, watching the World Cup, that really got me into it. I was 13 and never played soccer, but always enjoyed watching and enjoyed learning the game itself and the passion that the fans have around the world.
Yeah.
And that really drew me to England, obviously, because it's the most passionate fans in my eyes. And, non-league football, you really see the passion because, you're not playing for really a lot, and still the fans are coming. Everyone in the town will be there, and they love the game. They love their town. They love their clubs. And so I found that very fascinating.
And that, of course, led you firstly to Matlock, a couple of other clubs as well, and then Willington. Of course, we have to be a little bit biased, being a North East football programme. We're, of course, going to talk about Willington more so. How did it all happen where you decided to donate the £1,500 across to Willington?
I think I came across the Just Giving page or GoFundMe. I forget now. But I saw it and saw where they needed to get to, and I just felt the urge to help them get there. I in times of crisis, like, we all need to stick together, and it truly, I felt like it needed to happen.
It's an absolutely tremendous gesture. Firstly, before we kind of move on to Mark, from all of us here on Football Matters, huge commiserations about your uncle. Didn't realise that, of course, it passed last week, but our thoughts are, of course, with you and your family too. I have to ask you, Rob, before we move on to Mark, you know about your English football, of course. You'll know about Sunderland, Newcastle United. Have you ever heard of the players Darren Williams and Olivier Bernard or not?
Of course. Absolutely. It's truly an honor.
Our producer paid you well, hasn't he?
No, I've been spoken to him. No, funny enough, I enjoy watching Newcastle play. So, one of my favorite players, from the States, DeAndre Yedlin, when he got signed to Newcastle, I started following them a lot more, and I think they're on the rise.
They are. I won't introduce Darren into that one.
Yeah. To be fair, mate.
We crossed fingers, Rob.
Yes, I did. No, I didn't. I prayed.
Let's get back to Willington.
Please, Lord.
Let's get back to Willington. Let's bring Mark in, because obviously this hugely wonderful donation from Robert Mark, it's taken you above the fundraising target of 2,000. I think now, does it stand 2,700?
700, yeah.
What does that do for Willington? Just put into context what that amount of money raised has done for the club.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive for us, Andy, to be honest. It's essentially, it saved the club and given us a little bit of breathing space through the crisis that everybody's facing at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think we were one of the first clubs to be sort of suffer from the virus itself. We had a Friday night derby against Crooktown when we got the directive through from the Northern League about an hour and a half before kickoff. That the games were cancelled, so we were expecting probably our biggest gate of the season that night, all 400 through the door. So we'd organise food, beer, everything, and it cost us a lot of money, and obviously we missed out on gate receipts as well. Yeah. So we thought long and hard about whether to go out to a GoFundMe, and we did, and obviously a lot of generous donations from a lot of people, and in particular Rob's, which has knocked us over the edge. Yeah.
It's absolutely tremendous to see. You've named Rob honorary life member as well.
That's right. Yeah.
What's the next steps between yourselves, Rob and Willington, for this most unlikely of relationships, do you think?
Say that again?
What's the next steps, do you think, for this kind of most unlikely of relationships between yourself and Willington, and then Mark from Willington to Rob?
I don't know. I just excited to get over there, watch a match and be a part of the atmosphere and really get to meet everyone in person. Everyone's been really, really nice and generous over Twitter, and I'm excited. I'm really excited to get over there. As soon as this stupid ass coronavirus goes away, I will be on the plane first thing.
It's the best way I've ever heard anyone describe coronavirus so far. Mark, I hope that the red carpet is going to be laid out at Willington for when Rob does arrive. What else can he expect from a Willington game?
I think obviously from our point of view, we welcome Rob with open arms. I think he's obviously doing a lot of work down at Matlock, and he's going to be. We're just a couple of hours up the road from Matlock, so whenever he's over in England, by all means, you can just pop up the road and we'll have a pie and a pint in the clubhouse.
A few.
I'll have
a few pints.
I'll have the pie though.
Maybe a keg. Couple kegs ready to go.
Just bring the kegs with you, Rob. That'll be perfect.
Absolutely.
Rob, can we expect a Hollywood adaptation of the story of Willington sometime in the next couple of years? Because I heard that Darren's thrown his name into the ring for lead actor here. And...
you know,
I'm happy.
Gone. I don't know.
Don't sit on the fence, mate. Come on.
Well, we've got Wembley pedigree, Rob. You know, so there's the story there.
Yeah. Hey, I'm always open. I love producing movies, so documentary would be nice. You know, I watched Sentinel Until I Die, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, the way it was made and everything, and I've watched it actually a couple times over. But you know, like I said, I'm excited to get out there. It's you know, it's truly going to be an honor to get out and watch some games and to experience the atmosphere that everyone's talked so highly about, you know, about English football. So
we'll have to, when you do get over here, Rob, we'll have to have you back on Football Matters when eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
This coronavirus crisis is over and done with. I think before we let you disappear very, very quickly, I'm sure you know fine well of Darren and Ollie, but Mark Carruthers, a very, very famous face when it comes down to non-league football, especially in the Northeast. He doesn't like this at all. He is, for all the wrong reasons. Perhaps an infamous face. Is that better, Mark, for non-league football?
Let's just move on.
I'm sure he'll be wanting an interview with you when you arrive in England, Rob. But we really... Yeah. Sorry, Mark, go on.
Yeah, just to say, Rob, I mean, I hope you appreciate how, you know, how people have reacted to this over here. It's quite a surprise to see someone donate this amount of money to a club the size of Willington, and the future for a lot of clubs at that level is uncertain at the moment. So just on behalf of the North East Non-League fraternity, just to say thank you for what you've done. It's a great gesture. Have you been surprised by the reaction on Twitter?
Yeah, a little bit, you know, because when I did it, you know, I was just doing it to help. You know, I didn't expect anything out of it. And, you know, I enjoy the game, right? I don't want to see any club have to fold or anything like that. Like, I think that it would be the worst thing possible. So, you know, I truly was humbled by everyone's reaction and it made me feel really good, you know, to be honest, to help. And I will be, you know, you never know if I'll help out some other clubs too.
So that'd be great to see if and when you get over here. I'll head down to Hall Lane myself, and we'll see you there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all should do that.
That's a Football Matters night out sorted for next season. We can go down to Hall Lane, Willington, and then travel all the way back to Blyth and end up at Ollie's pub. Because I don't know if you've heard the rest of the programme, Mark and Rob, but Ollie's just recently delighted to co-own a pub up in Blyth. So, Football Matters night out, perfect once this coronavirus crisis is all over.
Can I just say before we finish, on behalf of everybody at the club, Rob, personally, thank you very, very much. It means a lot.
It is my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tremendous. Guys, thank you very, very much for your time as well to appear on the programme tonight. We really appreciate it. Mark, of course, for yourself from Willington, but Rob, all the way from the States, highly appreciate it, mate. Thank you once again. And
thank you, guys.
Information for the passing of your uncle last week too. But take care of yourselves. Try and stay safe as you possibly can, and we'll catch up soon, all right?
All right, stay safe, guys.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, guys. That's Robert Malloy, of course, who's a Hollywood producer and now honorary life member of Willington as well. Things you thought you would never, ever say on Football Matters. Quite incredible. And Mark Welsh, of course, press officer at Willington as well. What a story, guys. That's,
I know when Mark rang me last Monday, to tell me what was happening, he said he had a bit of a different story for me. And you kind of, you know, you sort of play before that phone call happens, you play around in your head and think, you know, what's he going to say here? And when he starts it off with, you know, have you ever heard of the Steinbrenners? Like the family that own the New York Yankees, and you start thinking, I don't know what's going on here. Like, where's this going? And just a remarkable story. I mean, an amazing one as well. It's, you know, there's a lot of bad news stories going around at the moment, and it's nice to get one like that and one as unexpected as that.
Well said, Matt. Well said. It's tremendous indeed. And we've got more good news stories on the programme tonight as well, not just about Willington and now their new Hollywood connections. We've got plenty of other business to get through in the next 20 to 25 minutes if we want to get under that hour mark for the week. I'm not sure we're going to manage that, lads, but we'll try our best, shall we? Let's go into the any other business for this week, and let's start things off at Blythe Spartans. Last week, we didn't get much chance to chat about Michael Nelson's appointments at Croft Park. Mark, what does he bring to the table, would you say, as the new manager of Blythe Spartans?
He brings experience, he brings contacts, he brings knowledge of all levels of the game. I think one thing Michael's done is played at every level just about. He brings that experience of being a coach from his time at Gateshead. He was obviously player coach, he was assistant manager at Stevenage. He hasn't committed to hanging up his boots just yet, so he may well have some time on the pitch. One thing he did say to me a couple of weeks ago was that he would register as a player. He doesn't want to play, but he thinks that every club in non-league circles will be functioning with smaller squads, so there will be a time where he has to get those boots on. I mean, he's one of those that I think when you speak to him, there's a calm authority to him. It is his first full managerial role, so he is going to be learning a little bit on the job as well. But when you look at the list of managers that he's played under, he's got a great list of contacts to draw upon. I mean, Darren, you shared a dressing room at Hartlepool, didn't you? I mean, what sort of character was he in there?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great character. He's a great lad to have, and like you say, he's got great experience at all levels. And contacts as such as well. It probably going back, obviously reminds me of obviously when I took over Whitby. I had no idea of going into management. That wasn't what I was going to do. Fortunately, an opportunity came up, and obviously I took it, and I loved it. 4 years, it was really good. And it's a really good learning curve. I always say, I see managers going in at football league level for the first jobs, and I always think, well, realistically, I think if you have that experience of lower league level, where you've got to ring people's works and try and get them off work to go down to Nantwich on a Tuesday night, you think, well, okay, I might only have 11 or 12 players here, this week, and you deal with all those things that come along with that, and the hardship of obviously not having, the finances there just to say, oh yeah, we can go and get him, we can go and get, this lad, or we can, you've got to draw on other experiences, and other people that in the game. And I think, Michael will do extremely well there, to be quite honest. I think he's a great lad, like I say, great experience. I've been teammates with him. He knows when to laugh and joke. He knows when to be serious. I think, he'll put all that together, and I think he'll do a really good job.
How big a job do you think it is at Blythe? Just before we quickly move on, how big a job is it at Blythe, do you think, that he's got to come on? All three of you, I presume, will have an opinion on that.
The thing is, Spartans, let's not beat around the bush here. They've had a horrible season.
Yeah,
it's been a terrible season for them. It's a big rebuild there. There's players who've already left the club. I think they've released 4 or 5. Yeah. One of which I think we'll be talking about in just a second. But I look at the club, and it's a good club. It's a big club in terms of non-league football. It's the FA Cup pedigree, all that sort of stuff. Darren's managed there. He's managed it against that Croft Park crowd when it gets going. Can be vociferous. It can be nasty in the right way.
Say again, Darren.
He had a couple of fights there.
It's there's a big rebuild there, and I think what I would say, and Darren Ollie can jump in on this. I think the non-league scene is going to change over the next couple of years because of what we're going through at the moment. There's going to be players that will, maybe playing in League 2 at the moment that might have to come down the levels to get clubs, because I think right the way from, if I'm honest, from League 1 downwards, I think clubs are going to be working with smaller squads, and there's not going to be much money around. So,
totally agree with that, Matt. It's going to be very difficult when everything obviously clears and we all start back up again. It's going to be massive changes throughout. And I agree with you, Matt. From League 1 downwards, it's going to be big changes, smaller squads, less money. We've known a lot of the years, non-league players. Some get really well paid. Considering obviously League 2 players, etc. But I think it's all about to change, with obviously what's going on at the moment.
And
To be honest, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one for Blyth Spartans, especially at the minute. I fear for them, to be honest. They always had over the last couple of years probably one of the lowest budget, but it feels like this year, because players are moving, there's Mark's right, rebuild to begin. I knew most of the players that played for Blyth at one point, and now I struggle to find them, and especially with the one leaving. About one or two who always been at the club. You've got a new squad, so that squad needs to gel, and that squad needs to be doing much better than last season. And I'm a bit sceptical, but I wish them all the best.
And of course, it's not the only appointment in the lower leagues. Michael Nelson at Blythe Valley. We talked to Didier Agathe, didn't we, last week? In Durham, you talked that there might be news on a number 2. Anything as of yet? You knew I'd ask.
Not officially, no. We're on to.
I didn't ask you officially.
Great things. I like to be official. I like to make sure that what I say happen. So I'm not gonna discuss who I'm talking to, but we're talking about a decent figure.
Well, you know where Darren is if you need him. He's just not available every Monday night.
No, he wouldn't see me back. I can't hear him. Forget that.
Serious standards of Durham, it seems now.
We work on a zero basic. It's quite difficult to get the best. We need to get to the ones who can do a job without getting paid, which is difficult. Very difficult.
Ollie,
as we all know, we all need to pay our gas and electric, and I can understand that. So. No, I think there's, Darren will be definitely. I'll be on the phone with Darren when the club, when I'm guaranteed the club will push forward.
Well, he's set his payment demands quite low. He just wants beer. That's all.
Yeah, clean the pipes out. Come on.
A bit far. A bit far. Otherwise, I've got Blythe in a couple of months. They should be ready. So I get you on. We can talk about it definitely.
Get those negotiations in a couple of months.
Get closer. I can feel it.
As long as you announce it first officially on Football Matters, Ollie, that is all we mind about. Let's quickly move on to another club, Shildon. Plenty of activity this week. Always a very, very progressive club, of course. Daniel Moore signing a new deal as manager. In came Mark referenced before, Michael Sweet from Blythe Spartans, that is, and Alex White as well from Whitby. Just talking the manager for a start, Darren, Daniel Moore, he's done an absolutely cracking job with Shildon, hasn't he?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's Shildon. I mean, Shildon's a good club. Always has. And I'm sure it always will continue to be. But he's done a cracking job. Alex White, I've had the privilege of having him in my side at Whitby when I was there. Sweet. I tried to get him numerous times, but unfortunately, he just didn't want to move at the time. Which was fair enough, I understood that, and I think the travelling at the time would have been too much for him. But yeah, I mean, they're doing a fantastic job, and I'm sure this season, let's hope, obviously from a financial point of view, everything is okay for all the clubs really. But I think it's going to be a testing season for everybody really at that level. Like Mark said, from League One downwards, it's going to be testing times, it's going to be changes. But yeah, he's done a fantastic job for me.
And the signings, like Darren's rightly said there, Mark, 2 very, very experienced operators, and 2 operators that are going to really, really help that Shildon squad when eventually the football resumed. Yeah,
I mean, in terms of Michael Sweet, he was always one of the top goal scorers in the Northern League during his time with Concert and Billington-Thonia. Yeah. It's easy to say it didn't work out at Spartans for him, but he, trying to play up top on his own was difficult. he's someone that is guaranteed goals in the Northern League, and he's a top Northern League striker. So I think when you add him with the strikers that they've already got there, your Billy Grulich-Schmidts, your Dean Thextons, it's a very exciting array of talent that Danny Moore's got up top. You know, White's come in; he brings a lot of experience, as Darren said. He knows the game inside out. He knows his role inside out. So I think it's two very good signings, two clever signings. I'm sure it won't be the last at Children, but they have a squad that, whenever we do get back to playing, I've got no doubts we'll be back in amongst the promotion chase.
Yeah, certainly positive times ahead for Children. One other manager, and we keep talking managers, who's been praised this past week, Mike Williamson at Gateshead. Their chairman, Neil Pinkerton, saying that the club, that Neil is absolutely delighted with him and that his influence is all too evident. Mark, you wrote this piece for The Echo.
Yep.
High praise, but justified praise as well, I think, for Mike, as well as Ian Watson as assistant manager as well.
That was exactly what I was just about to say. You know, it's not just praise for Mike Williamson, it's praise for Ian Watson as well. Mike, we know about him. He's played in the Premier League. He's played in the Championship. He's played, you know, at a good level.
Yeah.
This is his first managerial role, and he's come in. He's had to, you know, pick through the bones of what happened last summer, where Gateshead were taken to the brink of going out of business. This supporter-led takeover happened, and because of that, they had to rush to get a squad together, ready for the start of the season. He's done it brilliantly, and they've moulded a squad that, let's be honest, I think probably would have qualified for the playoffs this season. You look at the likes of Greg Ollie. He stayed with the club. Scott Barrow, JJ O'Donnell. He's kept key figures. He's added some real quality in there. Used the loan market well, and it looks a happy squad. It feels like a happy club. And I just think, you know, with a proper summer of preparation, or a proper period of preparation, whenever we, again, as I say, whenever we get back to playing, Gateshead will have a good season again next year, because there won't be this rush to get in players that there was last year. You know, by the time Mike had been installed as manager, a lot of the top targets had been signed by other clubs. But now they can go out and do things properly once we get through coronavirus. And it does feel like a happy club. That, you know, the praise that you said there that Neil gave was more than justified. And fair play to Mike and to Ian, who knows the North East Non-League scene inside out.
It's an interesting time at the Gateshead. One last little bit of news: Wycombe and Redcar. Absolutely tremendous story. This we're all about, like we mentioned before, there are very, very positive news stories during this pretty awful, dire time for everyone up and down the UK, not just in the North East. But lots of work being done by our clubs in the community during this time of crisis, and few more so than Wycombe and by Redcar. From the resumption of football, whenever that might be, they're replacing traditional front of shirt sponsorship with a message of support for NHS and key workers. Just quickly, guys, before we go on to the final part of the programme, how do you react to that? It's an absolutely marvellous gesture, isn't it?
I think the key thing to say here is that the North East Non-League scene has stepped up and supported key workers, and, you know, have went out and fundraised. We can mention clubs like Birmingham Synthonia made a donation to James Cook Hospital. Bedlington Terriers did. Cramlington, North Shields have done things with the QE in Gateshead and the RVI. Who I missed, West Auckland Town donated £3,000 to the NHS. And now you've got Redcar. Their away kit is going to have a Thank You NHS logo on the front. And I think I'm right in saying, and I apologise if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty certain the profits from the sale of that away kit go to the NHS. Wycombe announced at the weekend they'll have a logo that's going to be designed. They've opened up a competition for local schools in the local community to design a logo with the rainbow. That's come a symbol of what's going on now. Again, that's going to go on the front. They're going to do a round of applause before every game to give thank you to the NHS and frontline workers. I keep saying this, and I say it quite often, that I'm proud to be part of the North East Non-League scene, and none more so than over the last 8 to 10 weeks, where we've really fronted up and helped, you know, play a little part in the bigger efforts. And credit to Wycombe, credit to Redcar, and credit to the rest of the clubs I just mentioned there, and the other ones that I haven't.
There will be some others as well. Darren, Ollie, from your perspective, like Mark says, it's great to see, isn't it?
It is. It is. I think it does. It does give a good opportunity for non-league clubs to reunite with the community. And you know, Durham, that wasn't mentioned, but, you know, Durham who sold a few Didier Gatchet will be given as well percentage of the money to the NHS Durham. There's it's a real sense of community. Probably before COVID, you had people, looking after themselves and trying to, go about with life. And now we have people helping each other because we're all in the same hole. Yeah. And the only way to come out of it is to unite. And I think that's a fantastic showing that at the minute, and it's very, very powerful.
Brilliant, and a tremendous touch from Durham as well with the Didier Gat shirt, Ollie. Absolutely fantastic. That Darren, you want a final say on this?
Yeah, I mean, we go on about it. Northeast football, from grassroots upwards, is so passionate in how they go about things. The Northeast itself is passionate for me. It's obviously it's an area I've always lived in. I have lived in other places around the country, and obviously in Scotland. But for me, I wouldn't swap this place. The people, the passion, the desire. At times like this is when everybody comes together. And I think the Northeast is the epitome of that. It shows, how everyone pulls together, how everyone drives on together. And teams are unsure on what their certainty would be, going back into football, but they're still doing stuff, for the NHS, which we all appreciate, and let's be honest, if we didn't have the NHS, I think we'd be pretty much screwed at the moment.
Couldn't agree more, mate. And to be honest with you, I'm heartless sod at the best of times, but that has nearly brought a tear to my eye, that one. So thank you very, very much for your comments there, guys. That's absolutely tremendous. And great work by all of the clubs that we've mentioned and the ones that we haven't, and I'm sure are doing work in the community. Like Darren has said, like Marcus said, like Ollie has said, absolutely wonderful to see. And please do keep going for the sake of our football clubs and, most importantly, of course, as well, for all the people right across the Northeast. Right. Let's get into the final part of the programme because we are amazingly running out of time. Who knew? Something new for Football Matters.
Told you.
Well, Ollie, it was because of your long answer before, mate. We were doing really, really well until that, and then you dived on to an answer. We've got something a bit different this week, folks. We haven't got a Premier League Team of the Year. We have an underrated 11. So, basically, let me explain. Who didn't get the recognition that they deserved in the Premier League era? Who went about their business quietly? They were perhaps the Claude Makélélé of their team. It is the team of the most underrated players in Premier League history. Sorry, we are going to go 4-4-2. No claims against that. That works for me. That is fine. Just folded arms from Ollie.
Honestly.
Sorry, mate. Well, tell you what.
The modern game goes 4-3-3. You old-fashioned.
I will promise you this right now. We will do a 4-3-3 team next week, just for you.
Ollie, don't worry, mate. The only place I didn't play was in goal, mate. You can put me anywhere.
Now, I was going to say, Darren, who's going to be the brave person who leaves Olivier Bernard and Darren Williams out of their underrated Premier League 11 team? I'm not on Mark Carruthers.
That would be me. I'll be that brave one.
Tell you what, then. Let's start in goal. Mark, we're not going to start with you. We'll start, Darren, with you. Who's your underrated goalkeeper?
Do you know what? This is going to surprise you.
No, it won't surprise me.
Oh, I think I know who he's gone for.
Shay Given. And you. I had him as well.
Underrated. I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on that one. Ollie, I imagine you agree as well.
Yeah, it was my first choice. I mean, he had an amazing career. He was an amazing bloke in the dressing room, out of the dressing room. The amount of save on his line that he made, his reflexes were unreal.
Yeah.
But always been seen as a decent goalkeeper. But I mean, I played a few years with him for at least 2001, 2006. It was the better one in England. Overall, there was no better.
Strong words. I must say, I've got him as well. Is Mark making it the quadruple of Shay Given?
I did think about Shay, but I went with Brad Friedel, who I thought was a top keeper at Blackburn and Scotland. But no, I 100% agree about Shay. I mean, some of the saves you've seen him make through the years are just genuinely world class. So yeah, I'm happy with Shay.
I think I'm going to, from my perspective, put a couple of other honourable mentions in there for goalkeeper, defence, midfield and attack. One that might cause a bit of debate whether he was truly underrated, Jens Lehmann at Arsenal. Saved Arsenal's unbeaten record at Portsmouth, I think, with an absolutely crucial save from Yakubu.
Yeah, he had his time. He had his time. To say that he was the better one.
I don't think he's as underrated as Shea Given or Brad Friedel, having said
that. No, it was a secure one. It was a great goalkeeper. I wouldn't say he was making exceptional save. I think he was very, very safe keeper. And he's done that for a long time compared to, he didn't pick, but he was a steady, very good keeper.
Fair enough. Okay, that's fine. Let's go into the defence. And because we're going into the defence, I'm going to start with Mark Carruthers. What is your back four of the underrated?
Right. So my two fullbacks, I'll be very disappointed if they don't go in. One of which is a former teammate of Ollie, which is Aaron Hughes. At right back, Aaron was top player. His longevity at the top end of the game was remarkable. His ability, his attitude, just a top player, but never seen as one of those that was, I think, a key player in the sides he played in, until he went to Fulham. I think at Fulham he was excellent there. My left back, and I think I mention him pretty much every week. Sorry, Ollie, it's not you. Is Dennis Irwin. It sounds ridiculous to say that a guy who won as many Premier League titles as he did was underrated, but again, just never got the credit that he deserved for the role that he played at Man United for such a long time. You talk about 7 out of 10 players. Yeah, he was a 7 out of 10 at least every week, but never seemed to get the credit for it. So, my two centre backs, Lucas Radebe, who was at Leeds, big South African centre back, brilliant player. For me, was probably a top 4 player without actually getting into a top 4 side. And the other one was Sami Hyypiä, who I think was a massive part of Liverpool's rejuvenation. So you're right there, Darren.
Sorry. Off there, mate.
I've got you as a holding midfielder in the Makelele role, mate.
Even better.
Hyypiä was a bargain signing at Liverpool and became a key player and a big part of the success under Houllier and then under Benitez. So I think, Hughes, Irwin, Radebe, Hyypiä.
Strong. Williams and Bernard conspicuous in their absence from that one. Darren, let's go to you for it. Now we found out you put yourself in here.
This is where he goes Williams, and Williams.
And Williamson.
Can you start here, Matt? No, I was stuck between two for right back, between Jamie Carragher and Stephen Carr. But I thought Stephen Carr was probably more underrated, I think, to be quite honest. So I went for Stephen Carr.
Cool.
I went for, as marked, Lucas Radebe. Alongside myself. I'm joking. No, I've got Carvalho in there.
Great shout.
Yeah, Ricardo Carvalho, yeah.
And then I've got Ollie at left back.
There's a punchline here somewhere.
This is a true Football Matters moment, gents.
It's going to make me cry here.
We're getting closer to that deal.
Just worth pointing out that Darren didn't have you in the team, Ollie, until he found out you were about to co-own a pub.
I think that changed his mind, didn't it? He just no way he does. We'll sort that out later. After the show, I'll send you the address.
Well, I'm interested to see who's in your back four now, Ollie. Now that Darren's come up with his.
So I didn't have the right back. I couldn't think of a right back because I had Aaron Hughes, centre back.
Okay.
With Marcelino.
Oh.
Yeah, big surprise. Marcelino for me was at training. It was ridiculous, and I mean, it was reading the game like everybody was like, he's a player, but never managed to materialize in
in the game
playing 11 aside. It did struggle, unfortunately, but a lovely man. And good at training. So
Lee, can I just jump in there because he had his injury problems, didn't he? And there was a lot of questions about his attitude as a teammate. How did he find his attitude?
It was great. he was great, but he was one of the old-fashioned centre back who read the games and cut people, out the game.
Yeah.
And never wanted to get into the physical side of the game, because he thought it was too clever and could get the ball before he had to put his bomb down.
Marcelino's a good one. Marcelino's a very, very good one. I not anywhere near mine, to be fair, but that's top class insight, that, Ollie, into how he was in training. So I'll let you go with that one.
Yeah,
fair enough. So Marcelino and Hughes at centre backs. Who've got right back?
I didn't have any right back.
All right,
but
I'll
go for Darren Williams. Because I thought he could have gone to play for England and many other countries, which I won't mention.
Definitely, mate.
Any countries would have had him. So
I think Ollie's opened that pub early.
Is anyone else allowed inside your pub when it's open, Ollie, apart from you and Darren, and maybe Rob Malloy when he comes on?
Yeah, enclosed. We're gonna just the two of us. Just the two of us. Okay, as left back, I went for another young players that made he could have made a decent career. Pedro Dimas, signed as one of the future of Portugal, international captain his country at his age. Came to Newcastle with big expectation.
Yep.
They paid a bit of money for him, and again never managed to get into a rhythm. Yep. Injuries cut his career short, and that was very unfortunate because he was a very strong character who fit could have made a big impact.
Okay. Tell you what, you're throwing in some surprise selections there, Ollie, but credit to you for that.
No, I've got probably Sylvain Distin.
Distin in there. Yeah. Distin was one on my list. As well as
that's one of those, like he's played, he's the foreigner who played most games in the Premier League.
Yeah.
His rating was unreal for about half of his playing career in England. Yeah. Everywhere he's been, he was exceptional. Yeah. Never managed to play for France. Not even one goal. And I thought that was a bit harsh, because at times, for me, it was one of the better ones. And I know we had the likes of Sacco, who was no better than Sylvain. Yeah. There's a lot of players who managed to get a cap or two that I would definitely would match them.
Yeah,
he would match them. So quite disappointed for him, because I think he was a much bigger player than what people definitely front thought of him.
Distin could possibly go in there. Cool. Okay, that rounds off our defenders. The one that I also had, as well as Kolo Touré, was one that just literally sprang to mind, and that was Branislav Ivanovic at Chelsea, who went from a centre-back to a right-back. And Mark reminded me, Dennis Irwin, when you said 7 out of 10, Ivanovic was always around a 7 or 8 out of 10, popped up with some crucial goals for Chelsea, and Mourinho completely changed him. He might feature as well. Anyway, midfield.
Just quickly, I'd add Azpilicueta as well.
None of this is going to be quick. We're already way over time.
I agree, Mark. Let's talk about Azpilicueta. You're right, Mark. So you were saying, sorry.
He's I think he's another one, 7 out of 10 every week. Good play. Cheers, Ollie.
I've lost control of this, haven't I?
Again, it's been announced that left down.
No, he's a great player. He's very, very on point, week in, week out. He's the one, eyes closed. He's the first one you put on your team sheet. Because
he hasn't been put on the team sheet at all, Ollie. We're going through to midfielders now. We're done with defenders. That's it. Otherwise, it is literally going to be the end, as Darren points out, of a lockdown by the time we even get to the end of the underrated team. Let's go into midfield. Ollie, let's start with you for midfield. Sorry,
midfield.
Mr.
So I put Steve Malbranc.
Oh,
good friend of mine. Probably my generation was the best French player that we had, youth setup, because we played academy football together. We played for France together. And I believe at some point he should have been as well a better player. Quite disappointed with his career. He had a very good career, but I thought he could have picked him. Hugo Viana came to Newcastle.
Yep.
Best player in Europe at the time. Best young player in Europe, but never really got the chance with obviously Laurent Robert being in front of him, and so never fulfilled his potential at Newcastle. But every time he played, you could see the finesse, and I would have loved to see him a bit longer at Newcastle United.
Okay, so we've got Malbranc, Viana. Who's the other two?
Put Lualua and Joe Cole. So Lualua, again, great potential, but was very impatient when it comes to Newcastle's career. Very impatient and needed to play, wanted to play, and decided to leave where he could have made a real impact at the club. And he left the club, done very well for Portsmouth. But again, he could have gone, probably better. And Joe Cole is one of them, I've seen, week in, week out, it was all or nothing.
Yeah.
Technically very, very good. Injured quite often, but one of the players you think back and go, he should have done better. He should have been a real, legend of the English game.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Strong four. Darren, into midfield for you, your four?
Yeah, I've gone for Joe Cole, the same as Ollie in there. I thought, tremendous player. I've played against him a few times. Great trickery. He probably didn't, like you said, didn't get as much plaudits as he maybe should have.
Yeah.
I've gone for Scholes in there. I think Scholes was a fantastic player, but again was shadowed, I think, by a lot of the likes of David Beckham and Giggs and such. So I think he was probably underrated. I think I was between two, and I was between Rob Lee and I was between Carrick. And I think Carrick really is.
Carrick. Yeah.
But he got overlooked quite a lot. I don't think people see the job he does, and he does the job in the midfield in there. And on the other side, I've gone for Matt Jarvis.
Matt Jarvis?
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Jarvis,
Great player. Went to Wolves. He fantastic feet, great feet, great turn pace, great delivery. But unfortunately, just didn't. Maybe he's reached the heights that he probably should have.
Yeah. No, that's a heck of a shout, Matt Jarvis.
Yeah.
Mark, what have you got for any advances on?
On the right, and obviously he's highly rated in the northeast, but I don't think around the country people realise how good he is. Another teammate, Ollie's Nobby Solano. Whenever you speak to one of his teammates, they'll always say how good he was. Alan Shearer talks about the pinpoint crosses that he put in. Yep. But I think when you speak to people that didn't see him week in, week out, they don't realise just how good a footballer he is.
Yep.
I'm sure Ollie can elaborate on that.
No, definitely, because he didn't have the physique to play the game at times. And he looked a bit, sloppy. But his right foot was a hand, very, very precise, and his awareness was ridiculous. Technique, unbelievable. He just needed speed. That was the only thing he needed. It's speed to really amaze everyone. And I think he made everything look simple. And that's probably where he got that underrated status.
Let's push through, because I've just seen Darren check over his shoulder to see if the sun's going down yet. Mark?
My centre midfield, I've gone Leon Osman, who was at Everton. Who I think was a fantastic centre midfielder and just wasn't really, viewed as one of I think he got one England call-up, but probably deserved a few more. Alongside him, this is going to sound weird because he was a World Cup winner and a Premier League title winner, Gilberto Silva. Played in a wonderful Arsenal side, but never seemed to be one of the leading lights. He always played second fiddle to to a Vieira or someone else. Petit, Petit left by then, but certainly wasn't given the credit that he deserved for the job he did in that invincible side. I would argue without him, the Henrys and Perez and Lundberg couldn't have done the job they did without him. And on the left, Jason Wilcox, who was at Blackburn, did a great job at Blackburn on that wing, a natural winger. Got the byline, got the crosses in for Sutton and Shearer, and again largely overlooked.
Yeah, strong.
If I can just go back.
No, you can't. You've done.
I'm going to anyway. I would put Carrick in, if I'm honest. I think Carrick's a great shout.
Carrick's fantastic shout. Yeah. I agree, Mark. I agree.
Done. Carrick. We'll leave that in. Just another couple to throw in there for fairness' sake. James Milner.
We haven't got time, Andy. We haven't got time. We'll have to move on.
I don't have to explain them. I'm just shouting out the names. James Milner and Mark Albrighton at Leicester.
Yeah.
Mark who?
Albright
at Leicester. Winger. Supplied most of Vardy's goals in the Premier League winning season.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's that for midfield. Strikers, you're just going to have to name them here because I don't even know what sort of time we're at for the programme now. Go your strikers.
Don't give up. Don't give up.
Don't throw it to Ollie for an explanation because he'll be here tomorrow.
My first striker was Dirk Kuyt from Liverpool. Again, another one didn't get the credit he deserved. He was an exceptional player, great work ethic. Alongside him, Idiger Johnson. No matter what club he was at, he always did a great job. Brilliantly stylish, powerful, good finisher, and could play in any role. A great number 10 as well, I think, as well as a lead striker. So yeah, good Johnson and Kuyt for me.
Excellent. Darren?
I was between three. I had Solskjaer.
Yeah.
Clever player, probably didn't get the plaudits he deserved. Giroud. Ollie will tell us what this.
Olivier Giroud.
Who?
Giroud. Arsenal.
Is it Chelsea now?
Giroud.
He was, he's at Chelsea now.
Giroud.
Giroud.
Yeah,
how did you pronounce him, Darren? We can keep the show going for this.
I thought it had a D on the end.
It does.
That's what you don't
pronounce
it.
Silence D. Yeah.
That's what must have happened to me at Sunderland. It must have been a silent D.
It's like Bernard. It's not Bernard. It's Bernard.
Bernard, Oliver.
Silent D as well.
Sorry,
I'd love this podcast to turn into French translation.
I'm going to go Solskjaer and Defoe.
Defoe. Oh,
yeah.
Defoe, yeah.
Darren, quickly, would you put Kevin Phillips as underrated?
I probably would, mate, to be quite honest, yeah. I probably would, because I don't think he got as much recognition as he probably should have. I know, obviously, we went through them couple of seasons where we done extremely well, and obviously he was, top goal scorer, but yeah, I would probably be, put him down as there as well, to be quite honest.
Would you say Kevin Phillips was underrated?
Very much so, yeah. I think after the season he had in 2004, wasn't it? 3 or 4? He finished second top scorer. I thought he was going to get a Man U or a big club, a bigger club. Sorry, I know Sunderland is a big club, but I mean bigger again.
No man, really.
But he stayed. He stayed at the club, unfortunately, and his time went, and he went down with Sunderland. Bless him.
Well, he was here.
So he's one of your underrated strikers, Ollie.
I was saying something to me there, Ollie.
Don't, please, don't.
No.
Ollie was here Southampton when you were there.
Mark, were you just
getting?
He was at Southampton when you went
there. So I went for Canute. Canute played for Tottenham early 2000, and then he had a better career in Spain.
Yep.
And looking at what he's done in Spain, I thought he could have done a lot better given the chance in the UK.
Yeah. Okay, so Canute, what was the other one? Phillips?
Another friend, Stefan Dalmat, same. It was I think he played for every club, Leeds, Tottenham, Inter Milan.
Yep.
Again, it could have been one of the greatest player for France But for some reason, had a short career.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah.
Well, that pretty much rounds us off. I would have thrown in Edin Dzeko as well into the underrated forwards. Didn't never get the recognition I don't think he deserved at Manchester City. But for the sake of cutting this not short, because it certainly wasn't short at all, I did say there was going to be plenty of debate in that one. We will formulate that team over the next 24 hours and put it out on social media. I have no idea how. I might pass on the responsibility of that one once again to producer Johnny to sort that one out. The decided team will be out, like I say, on social media, but a podcast version of this entire episode, all of it, all 5.5 hours of it, it's like a Lord of the Rings trilogy, will be out as well across the course of tomorrow. You can find that at SoundCloud, iTunes, etc., or just give it a watch on Facebook or YouTube, because that just about does us for this evening. 5.5 hours later, we have finally got to the end indeed. Thanks as ever to our guests, Kieran Maguire, James Hunter, Rob Malloy and Mark Welsh. Brilliant. You three, fantastic as ever. Back again in 7 days to do it all again?
Yep.
Try it.
To be fair, we only have to wait 24 hours by the end of this programme, so... Mark, quiz is back again on Thursday?
It is, yeah. I was going to say we've been on so long, Boris Johnson's comments have just started making sense. The quiz on Thursday, in fitting with ITV's current rerunning of Euro 96. It is a Euro 96 special on Thursday night, so 8:10. We'll have the links out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above.
Fantastic. And I think that's all that is left to be said is thanks to you all for watching. The lockdown, it may be continuing, but so will we. In the meantime, keep looking after yourself. Football matters, but health matters even more. From me, Andy Sixman, from all of us here at Football Matters, take care. We'll see you in 7 days.